Hello everybody, I am Bailey. I am the dietitian with the Bedford Wellness Center.
I'm Anthony Verona. I'm the culinary director with UH and Sodexo. Welcome everyone.
Welcome. So for this month, since it is March and it is colorectal cancer awareness month, we're going to focus on one very, very gut healthy nutrient. And Tony, could you guess what that nutrient is?
Heavy cream?
Heavy cream, wow, that's the best out there. We're going to be focusing on fiber. So why is fiber good for our gut? So one, it feeds our gut microbiome. It feeds those good bacteria in our gut that help keep our gut healthy throughout the whole gut system. And then what else does it do? So it helps us digest food or digest better. It also helps with keeping our system moving, if you know what I'm talking about. Prevents any blockages, you may say, but it does more than beyond the gut. So it helps with cholesterol, it helps with managing blood sugars, and it also helps keep us satisfied and full between one meal to the next. So we're not grabbing that snack like 2 hours after we just ate something. So where do we get fiber from and how much do we need? So we get fiber from, think plant foods. So we have whole grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, beans. That's where we're getting our fiber from. And then how much do we need per day? So for men and for women, it's a little bit different. Women need 21 to 25 grams a day, and men need more. So they need 30 to 38 grams per day. And this can actually be really hard to get for a lot of people. Most Americans don't eat enough fiber per day. So that is why for this recipe today, I wanted to focus on something that was high in fiber. What Tony's gonna be making has 12 grams of fiber in it. So that's, over half for women and a little bit under half for men. So if you're eating this for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, you're getting at least a little bit of fiber that you need to help meet your daily goal. And now I'll let Tony take it off and show you how to make today's recipe.
So we're making shrimp and grits. Usually shrimp and grits is made with obviously shrimp and grits, but there's a lot of butter, there's a lot of maybe heavy cream, half and half. Today we're using milk, whole milk, but a little bit of water as well. So I have that boiling, but I'm going to talk a little bit about the ingredients. So as Bailey said, we're going to use some collard greens, right? A lot of people think you got to cook collard greens for, hours and hours and hours, and really you don't. I wish you could taste this today, but I've already made some ahead of time, and it takes about 12 minutes, obviously a lot longer than like spinach would be, or Swiss chard or something like that, but it really doesn't take a ton of time. So we're using collard greens, of course some onions, they love each other. We're going to use some garlic in the collard greens. I took some tomatoes and charred them on the grill, so we're using some fire roasted tomatoes that I chopped up. Of course we're using some, today we're using white polenta, same thing, grits, polenta. Polenta's Italian, grits is American, so basically the same thing, stone ground corn. A little bit of cheese, some Parmesan cheese, and a little bit of white cheddar. And then we're going to season it up with some smoked paprika. So let's talk about the grits first of all. Polenta. Whenever you make grits or polenta, there's a recipe here of course, but you always want to go 4-to-1. What's that mean? 4 parts liquid, it could be stock, it could be water, it could be milk, it could be cream, or half and half if you wanted it, and then 1 part of polenta. Okay, that's important. So anything you want to do, and what I mean by part, it doesn't matter if you fill this up with polenta, just fill it up 4 times with some type of liquid. Chicken stock works really well, vegetable stock. This could be a complete vegan, other than the shrimp. This is all except for the cheese, but it could be vegetarian as well, or vegan, just eliminate the cheese. So we're going to cook the grits. Now I want to talk about the grits real quick. So I have a pot of water and 2 cups of milk and 2 cups of water up to a nice boil, okay? I'm going to turn that down just a little bit. And I see a lot of people just dumping their grits in all at once, and then you kind of can get some clumps. So I like to gradually add it in while whisking. You can see how I'm just sprinkling it in. I'm right-handed, so I gotta do this way. And I'm whisking. A little bit at a time. Not, just don't dump it in. But once it's all in, we're gonna let it simmer for about 20 minutes. And I haven't added anything else to this as of yet. We are going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. And then we're going to start on our collard greens. So I'm going to keep whisking that in. Now it's all incorporated in. It's beautiful. It's all kind of incorporated in there. We're going to put this, and we got to keep an eye on this, right? We got to keep stirring it, stirring it, because right now it's at a crucial point that polenta is not hydrated, so it's going to drop completely to the bottom. And if you stop stirring it, it's going to burn on the bottom. So I'm going to turn it down just a little, which I did, and I'm just going to keep stirring it. You don't have to keep stirring it every single time, or every minute, but every minute. You should get in there every 30, 40, 50 seconds, get in there and give it a nice stir, okay?
And now I'm learning about all the mistakes I've made with making grits. I dump it all in at once, and I let it sit. I go do the laundry or something else while I'm making them. So now I know I gotta tend to them a little bit better.
And another safety thing I like to talk about, and it's one of my big pet peeves, is I see a lot of people just leave their spoon or their whisk right in the pot. And that's two things. A, the handle can get hot, right? And B, let me turn this down. And B, what happens is when the whisk is sitting in the pot, it kind of collects whatever's in there, and it has a tendency to burn right where the whisk is. So I whisk it up, and I kind of dab it off, and I always have a pot of water of some sort over here just to keep my utensils in. So I'm actually going to set this on the back. Okay, grab another towel, and then we're going to start on the collard greens. So I did make some ahead of time, but for the sake of time, I would still be stirring this for 20 minutes. You can do other stuff. Like I would be cutting my collards. I already did that, but you can do that while that's cooking. So I'm going to turn my pot on. Now we're going to cook our collard greens. And again, I made some of those beforehand, so we're going to move pretty quick with this. I'm going to add my onions. You know, you hear that sizzle. That's kind of what you're looking for, right? We're going to stir that around, and you want to get them soft, right? You don't want to just dump in your collards now. You want to kind of get these soft. If they get a little brown, that's perfectly fine. You don't want to like caramelize them to death, but a little brown on them is absolutely fine. It's going to add a lot of flavor. I'm going to turn that up just a tad, and we're going to add some garlic, right? So I went ahead and peeled some garlic, took it out of the skin. What I like to do is just take that little nub off. And you have your garlic. A lot of people probably know this already, but I'm going to show you a little bit. I just put my knife right down there, and you see how I kind of scrape it across?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to run my knife just a couple times through it. And then I'm going to take the tip of my knife and mash it up. You got to clean your cutting board pretty good after this.
Do you need a sharp knife to do this?
I mean, you always want to use a sharp knife.
Oh yeah, of course, of course.
Always. You know, a sharp knife is going to, people think, oh, I'm going to cut myself with a sharp knife. But the problem with a dull knife is you put more force into it, and then you end up cutting yourself even worse.
Yeah, potentially taking a finger off.
Yeah, if it's nice and easy to cut, and then you end up cutting yourself, it's probably not going to be as much force, and it's kind of going to be a clean cut. So I just mash it up real good. I'm going to add my garlic to that. You don't need a lot. Okay, stir that up, and you want to wait until you get some fragrance out of that. And I can see right now the onions are kind of turning translucent, which is what I want. The other thing is we're adding smoked paprika. So dry spices like this are not water soluble, they're oil soluble, so they need to what we call bloom, which is put them in oil and they kind of fry up and they just release all its natural. So if I just put, say I'm making a chili or something, and I have all my meat, my onions, and all my broth and stuff in there. If I just add my cumin and my chili powder and all my paprika and stuff to the pot and not put it in with the onions with that oil, it kind of has like a raw flavor to it.
Interesting.
Yeah. Can you smell that smoked paprika?
I can. It smells amazing.
So it kind of fries in that little bit of, I mean, I must have put maybe 2 tablespoons olive oil in there. All right. And I want the liquid from my tomatoes. So I'm adding my tomatoes in there, and I need that liquid. And that looks like a lot of collards, and I use just this amount of collards in my, over here, in the recipe I made before, and you'll see exactly how they kind of wilt down. So I'm going to cover this. I would cover this, Put it on low, stir it every little bit, put it on low, keep it on low, stir it, 10 to 12 minutes, and they'll be done. So I'm gonna push this aside.
And something you'll notice about when you're cooking greens, we almost have a full pot here, and once you get down to it, when it cooks down, it ends up like almost being flat to the bottom. It really cooks down, so that's one of my tips for those who don't really like a lot of vegetables. Pile in some spinach into a skillet so it's like filling. It cooks down, then eat that for breakfast. And you probably had all your servings pretty much for your vegetables right there since they all cooked down.
The other thing I was going to mention, I forgot about making the grits, is that, again, if you use cream, you know, you might add seafood to it. If you were going to add chicken stock, you could add different pieces of chicken to it. Or veggies, you could add veggie stock and veggies. You could actually make a little bit of a breakfast grit with some milk and maybe a little maple syrup or some coconut sugar or something. Yeah, maybe some coconut in there or something. Yeah, kind of like a light sweet one. All right, so we're gonna shrimp, right? We're down here at Dave's in Midtown. Everything you see here, they sell here. And it's relatively inexpensive. So they do sell the shrimp. We got the shrimp here today. I'm gonna add a tad bit of olive oil. I'm gonna add some black pepper, a little bit of salt. And again, that smoked paprika can be a little overpowering. So you really wanna go light with it, okay? So I'm gonna add just a little bit there. I'm gonna stir this up. I have a hot pan going on. And again, I've added that oil, right? I added that paprika. And when I add it to that pan, that paprika is going to kind of fry in there and give it a nice, it's going to give it a nice color. I'm going to add a little bit of chopped parsley to it. We're going to add a little bit of chopped parsley at the end. And now I have a nice pan going. I've had that on there for about a minute or two. I'm going to add just a little bit more olive oil. And shrimp are real quick to cook. So I'm getting that. You can see that shimmering. That's kind of what we're looking for. A little bit of smoke coming off there, and I'm using extra virgin olive oil. A lot of people say you shouldn't heat it up, but we're heating it up today.
Yeah, so I personally normally heat extra virgin olive oil to about medium, but if you're doing like a higher heat cooking, I recommend like avocado oil. That's a better alternative, and also of course canola oil's there too, which is also another high heat oil.
Also with the shrimp, you can buy them peeled and deveined, which we did, but I put a little extra cut in the back so they kind of curl up a little bit. It gives them a little extra, you know, nice little presentation. You can see they're curling up.
Yeah.
The other thing I do with the pan is you can see how they're one level, right? There's not too crowded in there. You never want to crowd a pan when you're sauteing. It can take too long to cook and it can overcook. Okay, so we're going to let that cook a little bit. I'm actually going to put a little bit of lid on there. Okay, now, here's the grits. So, say I have the grits, right? I'm done. It's 20 minutes, or what did I say? Did I say 20 minutes?
Yeah, I think you said 20 minutes.
Yeah, 20 minutes is good to go. They're going nice. And again, some people like their grits a little bit softer, a little looser. You can adjust that as you wish. We're going to add a little bit of Parmesan cheese, and we're going to add a little bit of white cheddar, right? And that's going to just bring it all together. If you notice that your grits are a little too loose, that cheese is really going to help out. But at any point, you can always add a little bit more liquid if you think it's too loose or too tight, too thick. So we're going to fold that in. And I definitely want to stir this good because I want all that cheese to be melted through. You don't want any clumps of cheese. And that looks really good.
That does look really good.
Yeah. So I know I'm going to taste it anyhow, but I know it's not done. So it's kind of grainy right now, right? But again, I made one earlier. So here's our shrimp going good. We'll just give that a little toss.
And Tony, when do we know when the shrimp is done? I was always told, or I found on the internet, that they start like this and they're done when they kind of turn into a C.
You know what? When they're pink, because you saw how they were translucent. Yeah. When they're pink, they're done.
They're done?
Yeah.
Shape does not matter.
I mean, if you wanted to stick a thermometer in there, if they were 145 degrees, then they'd be done.
Okay.
But it's hard to stick a thermometer in a
little shrimp.
Okay. So that shrimp's just got a couple more minutes. And we're almost there. So here's what the collards look like. right? The thing I like about, the thing I want to see is that I personally, for this dish, I don't want to see any liquid, right? So I reduce that liquid. So what does that mean? So all that liquid came out from the tomatoes. The liquid came out from the collard greens, because you know vegetables are mostly water. And what happens when that liquid evaporates?
It goes away.
It goes away. But all those flavors concentrate, right? All those flavors just reduce down from the onions to the tomatoes to the collards, and it gives it a wonderful flavor. I did add a little bit of salt and pepper to that. Oh yeah, these are looking good. And there is a little bit of juice in there. I want that juice. All right, so let's plate this up. Oh, these look great. Again, anytime you're serving something, I want to give it a little taste. That cheese really makes a big difference.
Ooh,
okay?
I bet it does.
And you guys have seen my videos before. I like to do a little, you know, spruce it up a little plate presentation. And this is great for a, you know, a function if you got people over. Just a little bit more. Okay.
And it's something you can meal prep in advance, because I personally will eat shrimp and grits for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Okay, we're gonna shut that off. That's done. Let me get this. All right, so we're gonna put a little bit of this on. I'm just gonna kind of drizzle that across.
Beautiful.
And this will serve probably 4 to 5 people right here. Okay. Remember, I wanted that kind of there's no sauce per se in this recipe, so I want this kind of juice I'm going to have here. So I'm going to take these shrimp and just kind of sprinkle them around. And as I'm picking it up, I'm getting that. You see that?
Yeah.
You see that juice that's coming off? You want that type of juice, nice, like pooling on the, oops, I lost one. Pooling on the grits themselves.
And the sauce, yeah, also adds some nice color to the plate too.
Yeah. Yep. And we're gonna take this.
Oh yeah.
Gonna sprinkle that around. Just give it a little cleanup. You want it on the plate, but you don't want it on the rim. A little bit of parsley on there. And I think that's a pretty good, healthy, low in fat.
Yes, that's a gorgeous plate.
Gorgeous dish. Yep. And that when you eat that with that creaminess of the grits, and that's the thing about grits. We did add milk, but they have their own creaminess to it, you know. So it kind of acts like, and we did. Of course, we added some cheese, but they kind of act like you're adding a bunch of cream and a bunch of fat to it. But yeah, and it's gluten free.
You were right.
Yes.
Yes, it is gluten free.
Yeah. So I hope you make the recipe.
Yes, give it a try. We hope you enjoyed the video, and we will see you next month.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.